Overpopulation is a lie. I'm convinced of that, actually. I'm convinced that the powers that be have scared the living bejesus out of everybody that there's too many people. And I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time on my own YouTube channel, my small little place of the world on YouTube, where I'm a sharecropper. There's too many people. And I always say, yeah, you're here. If there's too many people, what are you doing, man? You're one of the too many people. No, not me, those people. Usually brown people in India, East Asia, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa. But when it comes to Ukraine, oh my goodness. Such a scumbags, man. Just such scumbags who say this crap. How do you know that there's 7 billion people in the world? Well, the UN tells us. Jeez. What else has the UN told us? That's complete fallacy. I mean, well, the government tells us. Let's go over the list of things the government tells us that are questionable at the very least. The Kennedy assassination, the moon landing, the reason for Vietnam. The Tet Offensive was actually a success, by the way, but Walter Cronkite lied to us about that, so it made everybody say, oh no, we gotta leave the southern Vietnamese left alone to be murdered and butchered in the street. Now, we should never have been there to begin with, I recognize that now. However, that was a success, and it had the Ho Chi Minh and the VCs running for cover, but Walter Cronkite, actually it's funny because I was listening to something, and I haven't validated this about Ho Chi Minh. Turns out, at least according, I forgot who this was who said this, but someone I trust, and I just can't remember who it was. Ho Chi Minh apparently was fond of Thomas Jefferson and was actually very interested in having relations with the United States before the Dulles, the Allen Dulles and John Dulles and all these clowns, John Foster Dulles, and the warmongers that were in both the administrations of Eisenhower, Kennedy, Truman, FDR, Nixon, Kissinger's of the world, because war is good for the war machine. Shocking, huh? Fear is good for the climate change regime. Shocking, huh? Just like Eisenhower warned us. Anyway, and the list just goes on and on. Weapons of mass destruction, the jabbas, the various jabbas, going back to, well, we'll just let you figure that out. Not even just the recent one, well before that. The list goes on and on and on. Who's the biggest of, who perpetuated the biggest school massacre in history? I want to take a guess. Was it some right-winger? Nope. Who perpetuated the biggest school massacre of history in the United States? Our own government, led by Janet Reno in Waco. Just as an FYI, just figured you should know that because, hey, gun control, because we got to keep criminals from shooting up schools. Well, a big criminal enterprise in this regard, because this was absolutely a criminal enterprise, did that same exact thing in Waco, but no one was held accountable. In fact, I think some of those same guys who did Waco found themselves to Ruby Ridge or vice versa. Good times. This is not indictment on the entirety of the FBI, by the way. Plenty of good guys in the FBI, absolutely. The vast majority are good guys. The vast majority of Leos are good guys. Saw some people putting some negative comments about cops. I don't like that. You're always gonna have clowns. Every organization, 10% of the organization can be clowns. Don't hold the whole organization for the actions of 10%. That's just stupid, but people do because it's easy. Anyway, so let's go back to overpopulation. The biggest fraud perpetuated on people for, hell, since Malthus. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have too many people, not enough food. Too many people, not enough food. Too many people, not enough food. Has never led that at all, thankfully. And then we're going to say, well, we know how you have too many people. You're sitting there flying, just take a flight. I flew up to Boston, 3 weeks ago. Lots of undeveloped land. Doesn't mean it should be developed, but when you look at that, you're like, certainly a lot of, that's in the Northeast corridor, where everyone thinks from basically Richmond all the way up to Boston is nothing but highways and and asphalt. It's simply not true, man. Tons of green space down there, which is wonderful. Wonderful. I don't want to freaking put, I mean, look at this. You can't see it, but the beauty of this right here, having asphalt in there, freaking, as I'm walking on it, it sucks because the nature is beautiful and every single bit of nature is perfect because God doesn't err. And when God created earth and the world is perfect as is, and you and I are perfect under God's image too. Now, we have the ability for free will so we can alleviate from that perfection, which we have from the beginning of mankind, but be as it may, and God's creation is perfect in all things. Well, how dare you, Josh? Hurricanes are perfect? Hey, man, I don't know what the reason is. I'm not God, so I'll leave that up to God to figure that one out. And I'm sure he doesn't need to explain to me or to you. Hey there, buddy. What's up? You don't scare me. No, you don't scare me. Anyway, so I'm just thinking, like, so everybody and their mom is so worried about overpopulation. We need to have unlimited abortions. We need to push same-sex couples because that would, obviously, same-sex couples cannot have children on their own. You see what I'm saying? Now, if they want to adopt, look, I don't care. Actually, I'm not a big fan of saying you're pro-life and then saying same-sex couples shouldn't adopt. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't bother me in the least that Pete Buttigieg has a child with what's his husband's name? I look, man, hell of better than being aborted, for heaven's sake. In fact, the number one issue that comes to being conservative is having children, by the way, just as an FYI. Yeah, there's plenty of families who are liberal, plenty of them. Single people are a hell of a lot more liberal than families, though, because families see a future. Single people don't. Single people just see their future and that's it. Families say, hey, I have to have a future for my children. Thus, I want to make sure that we don't exploit too much what we're given and we keep it for the longer term. And one of the ways to do that is to have a growing economy and things of that nature. Lots of conservatism in the family structure. So if same-sex couples want to have babies, some of them will become more conservative. It doesn't mean to be Republican, but it does. Everyone's conservative in the things they know best, by the way. Everybody knows that drag queen story hour for kindergartens is silly. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows it. Other than uber wealthy liberals. Because uber wealthy liberals have never had any issues of normal people to contend with. And if you don't have issues, you create them because you need to have issues. You always want to be on the Selma Bridge. Everyone wants to be the next John Lewis. Everyone wants to say, if I can't be the next John Lewis, well, at least I'll be the guy who funded John Lewis via SPLC or something like that. Everybody wants to say, I'm part of that. And if drag queen story hour for kindergartens, that's the next civil rights movement. How offensive that is to what blacks had to go through, but I guess Al Sharpton, as long as the money comes in, he doesn't care because he knows who butters his bread. It certainly isn't poor blacks in the South. It's rich, uber liberal whites in the Northeast corridor in Seattle. Anyway, going back to overpopulation. So why would you trust anything that the UN says or the United States government about this, how many people on the earth? And just think from just practicality. Think about it. If we truly evolved, all right, let's just use this for an example. Human beings been on the world, Homo sapiens, 20,000 years, 60,000 years, something like that. All right, so let's just use this for an example. Just backdate and go back and look what the population was 150 years ago in the world, according to the liars that lie. France, I'll give you Paris, France, for instance. 2 million people in Paris, France in 1870. 2 million people. I have no idea what the size of Paris right now is. Don't know, don't care, don't need to know. What I'm saying is, 100 years before that, there's less than 1 million, all right? So how could we have evolved into where we are today from freaking chimpanzees, given how many generations that is? It's mathematically impossible. We know this. I mean, Michael Behe, yeah, I think that's right, has done the equation. It's just, man, we know this is mathematically impossible. Unless there's a history that well before what we're finding out now, and I think there actually is. And I think someone just finds something that says the old Mesopotamian Sumeria or whatever it's called. There's civilizations. They just found something in like Lebanon, or I don't think it's Turkey. I want to say it's Lebanon. I don't think it's Lebanon though. Maybe Libya, someplace up there. That there's a civilizations before Mesopotamia. Is that right? Sumeria. No, those two kind of like the dawn of civilized society, or not say civilized, but humanity in Homo sapien terms. And they found something. I forgot what it was. Funny Old World has the videos on this. Funny Old OLDE. It's pretty actually doggone interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. I love this stuff. Anyway, but just if we use the current thought process of global population and we backdate it 150, 300,000 years ago, there's just not enough people for evolution to have occurred. It's just simply not. It's impossible to go from monkeys to this to where we are today. It's stupid. You know, you just inherently know it's dumb. You know, evolution. Look, we can change we can certainly evolve in terms of how we deal with things, i.e. going from a hunter-gatherer to an agricultural society. That's evolving, absolutely. But in terms of evolution, what's the backbone? It's just junk DNA. It's just dumb, man. It's dumb. And you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it, except for people who say, no, it's true. You have no proof of that. You're speculating, like you're speculating on the Big Bang. You got no proof of that. Oh, but we can see in the past because we can see the red colors from light emanating from these faraway stars. And red means it goes back further in time, because the farther away, the darker the red is, and that just proves it. It's all gobbledygook, man. It's all gobbledygook, fake. So if you know that the population is, we'll just say 7 billion, assuming that's correct, and I don't think so at all. And then you fly over the United States, you're like, there's a lot of empty space down there. And we got 330 million people in here, all right? Now China's got 4 times the size of us, and their land is what? I don't know, about the same as the United States, maybe bigger, I don't know. Russia has what, 90 million, 100 million people, and their land's even bigger than ours. So where are all these people? Well, we know in China and Tokyo and stuff like that, they're all on top of each other. That sucks. But certainly, you have to question if the numbers are correct, and we're certainly not developing the whole damn world. That's for doggone sure. And we know this too about deforestation. Oh, this is just silly, man. We know that CO2 is good for greening of the world. That's just a fact. There's more green than now than there was 100 years ago. That is a fact that can't be disputed. If anything, we need more CO2. So why do they do this? To scare you. To scare you. To scare you to think there's food is scarce. And it's gonna be, I'm telling you right now. But it's not food scarce because there's too many people. Food scarce is because of the way the government is running. And I hate to even just put it on the government, because the guys who you elect aren't, well, they're the figureheads, but they're just freaking their strings are being pulled. But they're gonna scare you. And here's what happens when they scare you. They're gonna look back and say, whoa, if we don't do something, we're gonna be like China in the 1960s, which is when they brought up their one child per family thing. Remember that? Well, why did they do that? Because they're running out of food. Why were they running out of food? Was it because of lack of resources? Nope. Lack of ingenuity? Nope. Lack of manpower? Nope. It's because commies kill. That's what commies do. Commies, the number one thing in society is kill, without question. Even if they don't want to, even if they want slave labor, they don't want people to die, but they kill because they have no ability for private property. And private property drives growth, entrepreneurship and growth. No other way around that. All right, so then China says, all these people are dying, we don't have enough to eat, so we're gonna go to one child per policy. All right, well, that was stupid. And then they adopted some fascistic ways, which allows for some kind of private enterprise. And China takes off, theoretically in terms of GDP growth, not per capita, but just in terms of GDP as a whole as a country. And their fiefdom remains, you know what I'm saying? The big guys up top, they get paid living large, and everybody else is still freaking eating lentils. Lentils or lentils? Lentils. I don't know what even a lentil is. It just came to my mind. All right, so part 2 of that. If we don't start rationing, or even worse, if we don't start, well, we don't want to say punishing, but strongly encouraging people not to have big families, because how are you going to feed these big families? You see what I'm saying? If we don't start doing something, well, people are going to continue to have big families, and we got to discourage that because there's not enough food to go around right now. There certainly is enough food to go around right now. If you just got rid of the regulations and the insanity of these wars that the West seems to be intent on engaging in more and more to keep people fired up. And well, it's funny how the Ukraine war just kind of goes away. I don't see that many Ukraine flags anymore. Isn't that interesting? And yet all of a sudden out of nowhere, school shootings revisit. Isn't that odd? Huh. Josh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Huh? All right. I call myself a conspiracy factualist in a lot of this. I just find it ironic that the Ukraine war, the COVID thing went away. The Ukraine war came front and center. And then when that started being, people weren't really caring that much about it anymore, all of a sudden the school shootings come along. Yes, I support the current thing. That was before the school shooting came along. How ironic, how convenient, one might argue. Oh my goodness, you're really bothering me with this crazy. I just don't care. I mean, just you see, like, all right, so if I fly over the United States, I see tons of space. I guarantee if I fly over China, I'll see tons of space as well. I guarantee they'll probably see more space in China than we do in the United States, simply because everyone's on top of each other. Fly over Russia, there's about a third of the population of the U.S. The country's bigger. I guarantee we're going to see tons of space there. Well, a lot of that's in Siberia where you can't grow stuff. Well, you can't grow stuff now, but you could used to be able to grow in Greenland a long time ago, not that long ago, during the medieval warm period. What's that, the 1400s and whatnot? Why do you think there's Vikings up there? They were able to grow. Could that ever happen again? Sure, it will happen again. Not because of CO2, man, all these deer. Hey, buddies. But because that's the way climate change actually happens. The climate does change. Not because you're grilling up your cheeseburger and the cow farts, the methane is causing greenhouse gases to retain atmospheric heat. It's just freaking dumb, man. Anyway, so we keep going back to this. We're like, all right, so what do they want? Well, they don't want people. They don't like people. They don't like people, these guys. They're evil. They certainly don't like certain groups of people in certain areas of the world. Now, if they could all be Parisians, they'd be happy, for sure. You know what I'm saying? As long as they had servants coming from Morocco and Algeria, they'd be happy. Or if they would be in Brussels or Davos, as long as the servants come from Nigeria, Jamaica, things of that nature, Poland. But that's not going to happen. So what they got to do is they got to scare the living bejesus out of everybody that the world's overpopulated. Show them the proof of that. Well, just trust us. Yeah, you've lost my trust a long time ago, suckers. I don't trust you as far as I can kick you. You've lied to me too much. I fell for it too much. Too many people are hurt because of your lies. So to say the world's got 7 billion people, and I can fly over the good old US of A and see tons of empty space, you can do the same. I've never flown over Europe. I'm never going to Europe. My wife is actually on a plane going to Italy right now with my 2 daughters. That would be a lot of fun for them. I have no desire whatsoever. No desire to go to Ireland. No desire to go to any place other than the good old US of A and maybe Western Michigan to check that out for a day or two. I thought it'd be a lot of fun going up to see the Great Lakes. But anyway, so if they're lying about that, or how do you verify they're not? Validate you're not. Well, just trust. Trust but verify. Okay, verify. Well, every country takes a census. Ah, okay. Yes, every country takes a census. We add up all the country censuses, and that gives us a number. Yeah, nothing could go wrong there, could there? So you know they're lying, dudes. So stop your worrying about overpopulation. It's stupid. Stop your worrying about it. We're developing too much. It's just dumb. There's not enough space. It's dumb. I don't get why we fall for these what's the word I'm looking for? Dystopian stuff. Stupid. Where we're living right now, in terms of convenience and comfort, is the best that's ever been. Even with our crappy old governments and stuff. Never before have human beings have had it as good as we have. Stop with this. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so worried about the Nazis. I'm so worried about the commies. I'm so worried about Klaus Schwab. Yeah, these guys are up to no good. You need to be prepared. But then don't sit there and say, oh my goodness, we're all going to die from starvation. Too many people in the world. That's what they want you to think, man. They want you fighting over crumbs. When you look over here, like the pie is huge and it's growing every day. Anyway, I just don't buy it. I refuse to. That makes me a crazy man. So be it. I don't care anymore. 51 years old, coming up on 52 here shortly. 25 years of sobriety. I've been through my ups and downs. I'm at an up right now. I've been up for a while. Love it. Loving every minute of it. And I just don't trust any of these guys. You shouldn't either. I will see you.